Okay, so state your name and like where you live, just little tidbits.
Okay, so name Lewis Tivey from Staffordshire in the UK. If anyone's not sure where that is, imagine the UK literally dead centre of it. Pretty much, yeah, that's where it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you said that you had some stories of your time in the dating field. And I know we've
Yeah.
talked a little bit offline, but I want to hear your stories because I've given pretty much all of the stories that I would recommend for any viewer.
Oh, I'm trying to think where to begin. I mean,
So
there's
what do you think?
those.
First of all, let me ask you, what do you think of dating apps just on a whole?
I think it's kind of sad in the sense it's kind of a reflection of society these days where people don't tend to go out and meet as much anymore. It's all done online. It's like the whole music scene. It's mostly online. Clubs are closing down and people don't really meet up anymore. Everything's literally online. On the plus side to it, if you're shy, for example, like I certainly am, thank God I'm not having to do the dating scene thing again.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, I guess there's that, you've got that extra layer of confidence, but then again, it is a double-edged sword. As we were saying earlier, you do get people who, they basically just become dicks without
It's fine. You can say whatever.
Yeah, I was like, is this PG? No.
No.
Yeah, you get people who just become really arrogant, and a lot of it is if they're not satisfied with who they are in real life, you tend to find they create a caricature online for themselves, and they tend to play it out. Or that's what I've experienced anyway.
I think you're absolutely correct in
Yeah.
that because, people that may be like a narcissist or somebody who may not look, the way that they think society has them supposedly supposed to look, they'll create a persona of somebody that they're not.
Yeah, and the whole thing's quite shallow too. I mean, things like Tinder, for example, it's swipe left, swipe right, and all that. I mean, I get it.
That's the one app I think that I have not tried.
Yeah, it's not the best, but you end up literally. I mean, I've had friends, for example, where they're all crowded around, sat there. Oh, swipe left on her. Oh no, she's this or he's that or whatever. And you're like, for goodness sake, it's
Yeah.
they should just rename it Shallow.
Exactly. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, there's Tinder, there's Grindr,
Bumble.
yeah, Bumble. Like Bumble, my story with Bumble, which I find absolutely hilarious, is I signed up for it, I don't know, a couple months ago, maybe earlier, like in the summer, the early summer, and ended up, um, within 2 hours, I had 195 people that had looked at my pictures, and then I was over at a neighbor's, and I'm sitting here laughing because by the time I got over there, which was a couple hours later, I'm sitting here cackling, and Ashley's asking me, she's like, what are you laughing about? And I said, I just signed up with Bumble. I was like, and there's 385 some people that have looked at my pictures. And her husband, who's a firefighter, he was like, what'd you do, send them nudes? And I was like, no. I was like, I mean, are they that desperate?
It's. I do think the male to female ratio is slightly different.
It is.
I'll give you an example. So I think it was last year we did it. Me and my fiance, we were joking around, and she was like, "Oh, good thing we've settled down now and all that, because you haven't got it anymore." I'm like, "What do you mean I haven't got it anymore? You haven't got it anymore." So we actually downloaded Tinder, and we made like fake accounts. We used our own pictures, but like used fake names and whatnot.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think I had like maybe 1 or 2 matches. She had, I think she lost count. The phone was just ping, ping, ping.
Oh, that's insane.
But yeah. And then it was like, what do I do if someone says hello? Because I don't want to lead anyone along. I was like, what do I say to this person who started talking to me? She's like, you delete it immediately. I'm like, okay.
That's hilarious. So, tell me some of the stories that you have garnered within your dating app repertoire.
So, I'll give you a few examples of ones that didn't really lead anywhere or get off the ground. So,
Okay.
the first one, I'll call her Commie Girl, because literally, I'll just tell the story. So, do you know when you see someone who is so attractive, you're like, oh my God.
Yes.
Like, that is not, it doesn't look natural almost, you know.
Yes,
But
it's like it's garnered, by, what is it, Photoshop or something.
Yeah, but this was real, and so I saw this, she matched with me, and I was like, oh my God, lucky strike or what? So when you click on the profile and you go down, it gives a description of what they're into and all that. Hers, literally, it might as well have been the Communist Manifesto. Honestly, you should have. It was just sprouting this and that, and don't get me wrong, I don't support any authoritarian dictatorships or anything like that. But for those 5 minutes, I swear to God, if she'd have been Vladimir Putin's sister, I'd have gone there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then what made it worse? So I messaged her, didn't really get much of a reply. Tried again. I was like, don't want to come off as needy or desperate,
Yeah,
Thought
definitely.
I'll give it one last chance. So I thought, what can I use? I'll use a communist chat up line. So I can't remember what I said. It was something along the lines of quit Stalin, start talking or something like that. And then something else, and yeah, immediately unmatched. I was like, okay.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And then there was another one. It was this proper farm girl. She was obsessed with horses. Yeah, so this was like when I first ever got a Tinder. So we matched. She talked to me a little bit, but then she gave a number, and I was like, oh wait, this actually works. I hadn't had a lot of luck so far. And she was like, oh, feel free to drop me a call. So I took it as, oh, she wants me to call. So I literally dialed the number and called it. I hear a really confused hello. I'm like, yeah, hello, it's Lewis off Tinder. And then I hear someone in the background who I'm assuming was her parents or whoever going, who the fuck is that? I'm like, whoa. And then I was like, okay. So she put the phone down. She's like, why have you called my house? I'm like, you said give you a call? I was like, what does that mean these days? I was like, okay. So that didn't really go anywhere. Trying to think of some more. But there's been weird stuff like that. I have had. Oh, here's one. This will lead on to the next one.
Okay.
So I had 2 matches at the same time, and the first one was, say, probably more my type. Yeah, we seemed to hit it off, got on quite well. She had a really good career. She was like a management of some chain or something. And I was like, oh, blimey, doing better than I was doing at the time, put it that way.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a gold digger or anything.
Yeah, no.
And so we were talking, and as I say, we were really hitting it off. Meanwhile, I'm talking to this other girl, quite bland, not really much of a conversationalist. It was a bit of, a drag, pulling teeth to get to say anything.
Yes.
Well, anyway, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, I literally gave this other girl my number. I was thinking of telling the other one I wasn't interested. The other one, once she got my number, completely ghosted me. I was like, okay, that's weird. So I thought, I've got nothing else going on. I'll try with the other one. Well, it actually worked with the other one. We ended up dating for about 6 months, which was a bit of that was drama in itself. But 4 months into the relationship with this girl, the other girl who ghosted me, somehow found me on Facebook and then added me. I was like, what? Like, I just don't understand what goes through some people's minds.
Yeah, I know. I've had similar situations, except, and I've said this on the show before, like I had a guy that talked to me, and it was just like the whole conversation, it seemed okay. He had a decent job, and like he had just asked me some questions, about my life and everything else. And a lot of people, I don't know if you had this, like they want you to send pictures, like to show that you're a real person, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. But, so I sent him like a picture that I had taken like earlier, like on in the week or something like that. And then he said, well, I'll send you a picture back. And I was like, okay, cool. Did not expect the picture that I got. And I was like, are you for real? Like, why would you send me that?
It's almost like people, I don't know what goes through their heads. It's almost like, wow, if I send a picture of this, they'll fall in love with me.
Yeah, that's not something I'm gonna
No,
like.
but it's like, it's not something that people haven't seen before. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah.
And it was so funny because I was like, why would you send me that? Not like I hadn't gotten them before, but I mean, we were early on in the conversation,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting here going, dude, like, why? And at this time, like, we had talked maybe, I think, maybe a week or so.
Yeah.
And so by that time, he was like, well, let me get your number. I'll get your, because Facebook dating, it doesn't alert you like when somebody, either likes you or talks to you or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, sure, because that way it'd be a lot easier to go back and forth. And I realized my mistake by giving him my phone number
Oh dear.
when that happened. But then 6 months later, I'm like just cleaning up in my room, and then all of a sudden, like, I get a ping from Snapchat. Now, hardly anybody has my Snapchat. Like, only people that are either in my phone or, like, I don't know, a few other people have it. But not, it's not like something that I use every single day.
I'm the same. I think I've got like 5 people on it, if that.
And so I got a ding, and I was like, oh, it's somebody. The only reason why I downloaded it is because, like, my nieces thinks it's, funny to do, like, the whole pictures or, the little
The
things
filters
that,
and all that.
yeah. So we will do that back and forth to each other, and I just thought it was like one of my nieces sending me something, hilarious. And turns out that it was the guy from 6 months ago. And so he starts talking to me, and I'm like, and his picture had changed from what it was previously. So he had made like a new profile picture on his Snapchat. And I was like, you look like somebody I know. And it didn't dawn on me, like, who it was. And he's like, no, I don't think so. I don't think I know you. And I was like, yeah, your face looks really familiar. So then he starts, talking to me, and I'm just having a conversation. He said, send me a picture. And I'm like, God, this sounds familiar. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I sent him just a goofy Snapchat picture and sent me back the same picture that he had sent me 6 months ago.
Did he have a filter on it though?
No. But it would have been awesome had he done that. And I was like, I do know you. And
I've seen that before.
Yes, and it was the same picture. That's what was so funny about it. It was the same 2 pictures that he had sent me before.
I wonder if he carries a photograph of it around in his wallet as well to hand out.
I don't know. Like, that whole thing makes me wonder if they really do have, just on hand pictures of their penis just laying around going,
Have an album.
who's the
I need
next
to impress
person
someone.
that I can send this to without them being offended?
Oh, there's some really strange people. I get it on Instagram all the time, so I'll get someone add me, oh, hello, really like your music, and I'm like, oh, thanks, cool. You'll try to talk to them, fan engagement and all that.
Yeah.
And then it, as you say, it starts off with send me a picture, and I was like, see, I never do it. I literally will just give them the link. I'm like, you're on my Instagram though. There's that many pictures of me. I'm like, yeah, but I want a recent one. I'm like, I posted one an hour ago. It's like, so I always send a link to the previous post. I never post it. So I'm like, what's their game?
Usually because, to be honest, like, I have a whole section of people that have sent me pictures just because I find it freaking hilarious that people want to send me pictures like that. And I'm like, why? Why is that your go-to?
I tell you, I think one of the reasons I don't send them, and this is going to sound complete paranoia, but if you ever watch the TV show Catfish? Yes. I've just got images of like watching it one day and they're like, oh, I'm really in love with this dude. And I'm like, hang on, that's me? What the hell? It's where someone's got your picture or whatever.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
What a show.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I've watched that show a couple of times and, okay, so there's a dating app called Iris and I think it's just complete, bogus. The whole entire, dating app is bogus.
Yeah.
And I've had just numerous, weird conversations with people, and they're never from the United States. They're always from, I've had one from the Philippines that told me that he loved me 3 hours into our conversation. And I was like, okay, that's got a block. And then I had another one that he was from Nigeria. And then I had another one that he was from India and tried to make it out like his family was very well off and that he got to travel all the time and that he grew up in England and all this stuff. And I'm just like, oh, every story like that starts off with that basic MO.
Yeah, they must share the same script or something.
I think they do. Honestly, I do. Because I don't have any clue as to, it's fascinating. I've talked to people on, TikTok and have become friends with a lot of people, but, that, I don't know, have you ever, talked to anybody on TikTok and then ended up meeting them?
No, personally, I'm trying to stay away from TikTok as long as possible. Twitter it was a big step getting that. I avoided that for years.
I avoided it up until the time that we started interviewing people.
Yeah, I just never saw the point of it. To be fair, it's probably my biggest social media platform so far. So really? I don't regret it. It's probably the main way I communicate with people now. But no, I've not had TikTok.
Well, it's funny because early on when we were all in, lockdown and TikTok became the thing for people to do, and learn stuff and everything else, ended up talking to this one guy who lives, I don't know, probably about 45 minutes away from me, just being friends. I was not do anything, I would joke with him because he was single, I was single, and we would just joke back and forth. And then I was at a bike rally, and I'm sitting there just walking down the tables looking at stuff that people had to offer to sell, and he just happened to be standing there. And it was so funny because his face and my face both, because I was like, oh, I know you. And he was like, is that good or bad? He goes, did we ever date? And I was like, if you don't know who you've dated, that's on you. I was like, but no. I was like, but we've talked to each other on TikTok. And he was like, what's your TikTok name, and I told him, and he goes, oh my God, he goes, that's crazy. He goes, because like you've gone back and we've bantered back and forth for like a year. He goes, and then we finally meet. And I said, and I just recognize your face, from being on there and everything, because he's got like a huge following. And I've never made a TikTok.
It's weird how the world works, though. I went on holiday when I was a kid, and we met someone who not only came from the same hometown, but they lived on the same street as us.
Yes.
And it's like, what? Literally, it was like 20 houses down or something like that. Never had seen them in my life.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what do you feel like dating apps could do to improve, the way that people start dating? Because, it is a lot of going back and forth and,
well, I don't know if you can improve them, because it's just taken the human spirit out of things. It's all, you're talking to a machine essentially, and half the time you don't know if you are, because they're bots.
Yes.
I mean, in an ideal world, people would go out and actually meet one another. I know the world's changing. I'm probably being a bit idealistic, but yeah.
No, I think that you're being, exceptionally, fair, because I, my husband, I met him out at a club, and then my fiance, met him out at a club too, and I'm like, that's just kind of like a thing that, everybody has done. They either meet, by somebody else, or they get introduced by a family member. The whole dating society has taken a turn for what can I get out of it? What can you do for me?
Yeah.
Things like that. Like I, told you earlier, I ended up being an Uber.
That was brilliant.
And I'm sitting here going, that is so weird. Like, he just completely ghosted me, never talked to me again after that. And I'm like, that's wild. Like, you trusted me with your child, but then you don't want to talk to me anymore after that. I don't get that.
I'll tell you a weird one. This didn't happen to me, but I'm kind of involved with it. It's one of my friends. I invited her on early, but she said no. So
okay.
She'll probably kill me if she hears this. But basically, she got this friend request on Facebook, and this random guy started talking to her. We used to hang out at this old biker bar. It was a really good bar as well. It was like Fridays, Saturdays, sometimes even Sundays. They had live bands on. It was just brilliant. We practically became alcoholics and lived there. We were out near enough every night at one point. So anyway, one night, this geezer shows up, and it's the guy she's been talking to, who's just randomly added on Facebook. She'd just have to say, "Oh, I'm going to see a band later." I think he invited himself as well. I don't even think she invited him. So he shows up, and yeah, he was quite a nice guy, and we got on all right. But do you know when you start thinking, something isn't quite right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I'd probably met him maybe twice. He was already declaring to everyone I was his best friend. We'd only seen each other probably like 3 hours max each time. So that was weird.
Was he drinking heavily?
I don't know what he was on. But then, yeah, they ended up dating. It wasn't for too long, but he got really obsessive I think he told her he loved her within like the space of a week. Yeah, it got a bit weird. And then he'd say, "Oh, can I stop at your place?" And he ended up living there for I don't know how long. Well, after a while, they split up. But then the weird thing was, she noticed certain bits of clothing went missing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but then the funny thing is, recently she got a message off him years later. But he's now married and has a kid, I believe. People are strange.
That is definitely weird.
Yeah.
Like, I've had a guy that I had gone out with, and went to Applebee's, everything seemed fine. We kind of rode around. Went back to his house and like watched TV for a while. And then like 2 days later, we went on like a trail walk and everything. And, was talking about getting horses and like looking at, like we even went to like places where they were building houses
Yeah.
and stuff. And, he was like asking me, like, what do you like about this or that and everything else. And then like 2 days later, he's in a whole ass relationship with somebody else. And I'm like, what? What in the world? Like, are you, what?
I've witnessed similar experiences. We was on a night out and one of my old work friends, she'd been talking to this guy for a while. And I think she'd met up with him actually a few times, if I recall. Certain she had. They'd been in hotels and whatnot together. And yeah, I don't know how it came about, but she basically found out he was married and then proceeded to have a phone call with his wife. But the wife wasn't, she was annoyed, but she wasn't mad. It was weird. It was like
Well, I mean, it could be that they have an open relationship,
well, it was a very
but that
strange
wasn't
experience.
like, that wasn't said to her, which,
Yeah.
me, I will never do any, like, any kind of swinging, open relationship, none of that stuff. Either I'm with you or I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. I mean, I know that people use those apps for that particular thing, but then there's some that just open it up and use it for their benefit and don't tell either parties, which is wrong. And that's another thing, like, you can't check to see whether somebody is being honest or truthful or anything like that on those apps.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the problem with online nowadays. As I say, you're not talking to a person, you talk to a machine essentially.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, is there any other?
Well, there was the, I'll get back to the one who, do you remember I said about the girl who ghosted me, so I went for the other one.
Yes, yes.
So that led to a whole new kettle of fish. So we started going out. Um, Again, she was, shy's not the right word. I can't really explain it. So we got on okay, but we just sit there in a flat and literally no TV on, nothing, no lights on. Okay, we used to talk, but literally nothing. I don't think we watched a movie together the whole time we were together. It was like 6 months. It was bizarre. And so Christmas came along, and I was like, right, I'm going to impress her. Um, so I bought. She said she wanted to learn guitar, so I got her this custom, like made, painted guitar, and
Oh, well.
I got her a PlayStation 4, and I was like,
Oh,
I'm going to
wow.
be in the good books this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Christmas Day comes, and I hand over my gifts, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be in someone's good books. Not that I'm materialistic or anything, but I
But
had,
I mean, it's always nice to impress somebody that
I'd worked
you're
overtime, so
dating or talking to.
yeah, I'd worked overtime, so I had a bit of spare cash for once, and handed my gifts over to her, and then I received mine, and I was like, not being materialistic again, but this is kind of small. So she opens hers. Yeah, to be fair, I don't think the girl displayed hardly any emotion the whole time we were together. It was just like a blank slate, literally. Um, but I opened mine, and it was one of them cheap sushi sets that you can get at the supermarket.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then see, I had a proper job back then, and well, still do now, but she didn't. She basically had a student job, but she just finished the university. And I said to her, because she got laid off on the job,
Mhm.
because she wasn't a student anymore. And I said, look, you're going to need to find a new one. Because if you can't pay for this rent where you are now, because I certainly couldn't afford to live there,
Yeah.
you're going to have to move back with your parents, and I can't move up further up the country because of my job and all that and my family.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, it's not a problem. So spoke to her a few days later. How's the job hunting going? yeah, I've applied to a job in London. I'm like, well, that's not very good. You're going to have to commute all the time. And if you're on about living there, it won't work out at all. Yeah, I'll get on it. So a few weeks go by. I didn't really bring up the subject again. And then I thought, I'm going to mention it because, time's getting close to when she's going to have to leave this place.
Yeah.
How's the job hunting going? Oh, I'm waiting to hear back from that London place. Like, you don't just wait around listening for whether you got a job interview. They'll normally tell you. I mean, for all I know, she's probably still waiting to hear from it, and that was like 6 years ago. So yeah, and the only so that was one of the main reasons I ended it. Another reason, and that's one of the few times that I've ever ended a relationship. It's normally the other way around. She was always never really spoke to like my parents. Like she'd come round. The one time I met one of her family members, it was like, oh hello, because I'm quite a chatty person anyway. She'd just like not say anything to anyone. I went out with friends one time, got on fine with them, didn't have a problem. Don't think she ever said a word to any of mine, and it was just always really one-sided. And I know it sounds kind of bad, but she had her own video game server, and the only reason I kept it going for so long was because I knew that she'd kick me off the server when it ended.
That's funny.
Now that is shallow.
Yeah, well, I mean, she was kind of shallow, and
it was a great server, though.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Especially if you're into video games. So, is there any other?
Not really from dating apps, I don't think. Just 90% of them are probably me being ghosted. I once went online after not having much luck. I was like, how do other people succeed and I don't? So I Googled a list of like Tinder chat-up lines. They're like,
yes.
Oh, these definitely work. I think the first one I tried, I got called a creep and then deleted. I was like, okay, I'm never doing that again.
See, that's awesome.
Literally the first one I used.
I think like I've wondered because I mean I seriously got into dating apps like last year after my fiance passed away, and I was like, well, I'll try these out because I didn't really do a whole lot before, so we'll just kind of see how it goes. It has been a train wreck for the last 18 months, and I'm just like, ugh, like, is this really, like, how do people find dates?
Go on speed dating. It's probably better. At least you get to see if they're real or not.
See, I thought about that because I was like, maybe meeting them in person, you can get a better feel for, like, who they really are, or at least you can speak to them one-on-one and kind of see, like, where they're at in life, the questions you get to ask and stuff like that. I've often wondered if that's even better.
I'm just so glad I'm past the whole dating thing. I mean,
I would love to be past the whole dating.
Yeah, me and my fiance always say, even when we drive each other absolutely up the wall and want to kill one another, we're like, would you want to start all this over again? We're like, no.
Exactly.
We're happy.
I'm at the point where I'm just like, if I meet somebody, I meet somebody. And, if it goes well, it goes well. And I'm not like in a big rush to try to find anything that meets my expectations or me to meet their expectations or anything else. It's just, if it works, it works.
Yeah, if it happens.
And I think that's kind of like where you have to be when you're on dating apps and not take everything so literal and so
seriously. You've got to be able to laugh at yourself as well.
Yeah. Oh gosh, if you don't laugh at yourself when you're on these apps, like, there is no reason to be on one, because like at first when I started going, like, I didn't understand anything about dating apps, and I was like, these people are a train wreck. And then I got to a point where I'm like, this is kind of funny, because you got this person telling me this and another person telling me something else. And then within, like I've told other people, I give them, 5 to 7 business days before they start showing their true colors.
Yeah.
And once that happens, I'm like, I'm good. And I
Yeah.
don't, I'll either like say, look, you're just, and I try not to like ghost somebody. I had an incident once where the guy, like, he was just, he wasn't all right in his head.
Yeah. There's a
And
few of them around.
yeah, but while he was talking to me like online, he seemed to have his crap together. And then when I met him, he was just like, I don't know, he wasn't tweaking, but he was doing more than just smoking pot.
Oh, yeah, I get you.
And I was like, okay, now how in the world do I get away from this dude? Like, enough to where I can just go, it's really late. I got to go home. I got to drive like 45 minutes back home, blah, 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 whatever. And I finally just got to a point where I was like, it's getting late. I was like, and my daughter's 15 and I've still got to go stop by and get groceries. So I just basically lied to him. He's, well, just let me know that you got home. And I was like, okay, cool. So I got in my car and I was like the whole way home going, what in the fuck? What?
Looking in the rear mirror and the back window, like, is he following?
And when I got home, I texted him that I got home and then I blocked him and I was like, I can't do that again. Like, that is scary.
Tell you a creepy one. This isn't a dating app one, but it's still pretty creepy. So, and this happened literally last week as well. So, a few months ago on Twitter, I was talking to someone who added me, through music and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to them for a while. And do you know when you just get the feeling someone's got an ulterior motive?
Oh, absolutely.
You can just tell. When someone starts talking to me nowadays, no offense to anyone on Twitter, but a lot of the time it's people selling these damned music promotion things, like the one I showed you earlier, where it was
yes,
like,
yes.
$10 for a retweet and all that. But anyway, so this conversation, it went on for a few days, and I was like, oh, maybe it is like a genuine person. But as I say, I was pretty new to Twitter at the time.
Yes.
That's one thing I do say. Twitter does tend to have better people on it in the sense that you can talk to them. You don't really chat much with people on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like strangers anyway. But anyway, to the point. So it was talked for a while, and then it came all of a sudden. It was like, oh, you can invest in Bitcoin or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, here we go. I knew it was coming at some point. So I was like, yeah, I'm not interested. But they carried on. I was like, no, I don't think you understand. I don't care. Like, and I'm thinking, if they've set this up, they've literally wasted about 2-3 days it's like this big sales prop to me, you know what I mean? I'm like, wow, that is commitment. So I was like, so I
like
just stopped.
door salesman.
Yeah, literally, they just carried on. But the thing was, I stopped replying, but they still carried on just posting. I was like, right, okay. So I thought nothing more of it and just ignored it. Eventually, the messages stopped. And that was a few months ago. Then at work the other day, I get this message on my work group chat, and basically the app we use. And it said message request, and I was like, this is weird. I've never had this before. I thought it was like an encrypted thing.
Yeah.
It was them.
Oh,
I was
no.
like, no, but I was like, how did they get on here? Because I never gave my number out, and you can't find it online. I was like, what the hell? And literally for about an hour, I was freaked out. I was like, have I been, what do they call it, doxxed or?
Stalking.
Yeah, that was a creepy experience. I was going up to everyone like, is there a way to find out people's details on this? And they were like, no. I'm like, how have they managed it? I just haven't replied on it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's just, I mean, it's kind of like how dating apps, I mean, I've had some, like, the one where the guy just, he acted fine when I was talking to him, and then when I met him, it was a whole different, like, scenario, and I was like, no, I got to get out of here. And being that I was, like a female with somebody in my car, and then we were in his car, and then we got back in my car, we went out to eat, and it seemed like it was okay, but then when we started driving around, it was just weird. Like, it just, the more we sat and talked, the more it got strange. And I was like, holy crap, I gotta get this dude out of my car. I gotta go home. Like, I don't want to be here. And he took me, like, on these little mountain roads. And then I was like, it's getting really late. I was like, my kids are going to start worrying about me, blah, blah, blah. I just made whatever excuse I could just to get him back to his car and I could leave.
Was he a bit like Hannibal Lecter? Your skin
No,
looks very nice.
no, he was just like this skinny dude that I don't know. I mean, it's just a feeling that you get when you meet somebody and then you're like, ew, how do I get out of this? That type of thing. So, I mean, I'm always, and like I told you, I will, if I think somebody is on being weird or whatever, and usually it comes through in text. They'll text somebody, they think that they're texting somebody else, and then they'll text me, and I'm like, what? Where did that come in the conversation?
Yeah.
So then I'll find out, like, who they are, whatever, and I start stalking to find out, like, if they're dating somebody, if they're married, whatever.
You need to become a private investigator.
I've been told that before because I have
do it. There's good money in it.
Yeah, and I've found people, and I'm like, oh no, like nope, I'm done. And like I said, I've probably blocked 30 people just in the past year and a half. I've blocked people just because they have said something that was, either rude, crude, or just, like, I'm a man, I'm supposed to beat my chest, all this other stuff. And I'm like, are you, like, for real on this?
My block list is insane right now. There's some proper strange people. I think the funniest one I received was, it was a guy, and he goes, I've got a business proposition. I was like, okay, what is it? Thinking, I thought he's going to say something about Bitcoin or something like that. It wasn't even that subtle. He was like, if you send me $100 now, I will triple your investment. I was like, yeah, you're a stranger who's literally just contacted me online. Here, have my bank details and everything. Sure. I was like, no, thank you. And then, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
fine,
it's
blocked.
the
I
whole
was like,
access,
okay.
I think, of just, not just dating apps, but like all apps across the board. I mean, people think that they just can come at you. Because I've had people that, like, I'll be talking to somebody and then we'll friend each other, like, on Facebook, through the Facebook dating or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've had girls, like, friend me, and the only friend that we have in common is the person that, like, I friended because, like, we're just communicating or whatever. And I've asked one guy, I was like, do you know who this person is? And he's like, no. And I was like, well, they're friends with you. I was like, I don't know that person. I don't have any other friends. So either you've got a stalker or I do.
It's funny when you meet people on dating apps, though, who you actually know.
Yes.
So I've had it before where there was this girl I went to university with, and I wouldn't say there was an attraction, but she was good looking. But we got on quite well. And I know she'd been single for a while, and so had I. And it was like, hello, fancy seeing you here. And I'm like, oh, try me luck. And yeah. And it's like, oh, hi, how's it going? And you're like, yeah, good, how are you? I even got ghosted by her. I couldn't believe it. Okay, then.
At least at least it's not 6 months into the relationship.
That is true.
And then all of a sudden you're ghosted and you're like, what?
Yeah,
like, I know where you live.
She probably didn't have a decent gaming server.
Oh, that's funny. But I mean, I've talked to, like, one guy I talked to like 3 years ago, and then he saw me, I guess, back on Facebook dating or whatever, and hit me up. And we had talked like 3 years ago, and nothing ever came of it because I ended up meeting my fiance. And then now, like, I don't know, it was probably back in the summer. He, hit me up and was like, hey, how are you doing? He had any luck on this? And I was like, not so much. I was like, it's not really changed in the past couple of years. So, we ended up talking and like we met up and it was like absolutely not. Like just first meeting him, just like the whole vibe of him was completely off. And
The
then
online
he ended up,
persona was gone.
yeah, like as soon as I met him and I was like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here. And like he ended up falling asleep. And like we were at his house and just we're sitting there talking. And I'm like, he started falling asleep and I'm like, dude, like I'm leaving. Cause that was like my out. As soon as he started falling asleep, I was like, I'm gone. I gotta go.
That's not only weird, that's rude.
That's one thing that, I just thought it was like weird that he like just passed out. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta go. So I was trying to wake him up and saying like, hey, I'm leaving. He wouldn't wake up.
Oh,
and then he had a gun sitting by his table. And I'm sitting here going, if I leave, I'm going to get shot. So I like snuck out of the house. And then like the next day I didn't talk to him until like, I don't know. He texted me at like 6, 7 o'clock. And he was like, so I'm guessing that's a no-go. And I'm like, dude, you literally fell asleep on me. Like we were talking in mid-conversation and you started snoring and you wouldn't wake up. Like, yeah, it's a no for me.
Yeah, that's slightly odd, that.
Yes. And I could not, I was like, no, I can't do that anymore. I was like, I don't even know what to do. So I just, if somebody talks to me, they talk to me. If they don't, they don't. I don't put much effort into
The real world. That is your friend.
Yes,
Not
because
online
I am
dating.
more personable, like in person than I am. I think I'm not. I'm more. I don't know. I think I'm more reserved, online than I am in person. Like if you saw me, I'm quiet when you first like meet me, and then afterwards, like I don't shut up. Once I get to know somebody and once I feel like comfortable around them, I don't shut up. And like, it's always something, to joke or kid around. But when I'm online, I'm very like reserved texting wise. But like, I mean, since I've talked to you already for the other show, I mean,
that was like 2 hours before the actual show.
Yeah, I know, right? But I mean, we hit it off, and that's the whole thing. Like if I hit it off with somebody, I'm able to talk to them forever.
Yeah.
But if it's like really quiet and they're really reserved or whatever, then I'm like quiet and reserved. I kind of match energies with people.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go ahead and end this because I know you got to get to bed since you're like on a way different time zone.
Yeah, it's nearly 20 past 1 a.m.
Yeah, I know. That's why I wanted to do it earlier so that it wouldn't be like taking time out of your sleep.
It's alright.
But I appreciate you talking to me and telling me your stories.
That's alright. I wish I had slightly more interesting ones. I was trying to get so many people to come along, but everyone was chickening out, so.
Well, I mean, if they decide that they want to, we can still do like, the Skype thing.
Yeah, I'll try again, but even my fiance was like, no chance. I was like, oh, go on.
Tell her, come on. I need stuff.
I was like, I won't say anything because you'll be there.
Well, she can talk to me privately. You can give her my Skype name and tell her that I'll talk to her privately.
Yeah, I'll give it, but I don't think she will. She was adamant.
Okay, well, that's cool. But I do appreciate you talking to me.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.
All right, bye.